You walk out the door and don't glance back. No messages, no calls, just silence. Not because you don't care, but because you've decided to build your own world first. That silence isn't absence, it's a statement. A clear, unshakable signal that your value isn't determined by approval. And that separation? It's where your power begins. She scrolls. She checks. She waits for the reaction you used to give so easily. But it's not there. That void where your attention used to live becomes louder than any message you could have sent. Because when a man disappears without chaos or closure, it doesn't confuse her. It haunts her. And that's the moment the shift begins. Not in her actions, but in her thoughts. You are no longer the man trying to be remembered. You become the man she can't forget. Why? Because you did the one thing that rewrites everything. You reclaimed your presence by removing it. If this resonates, hit subscribe and tap the bell, because this is just the beginning of your transformation. She expected you to reach out, to explain, to chase. But you didn't. You stayed still. And in that stillness, something powerful emerged. She starts to question the story she wrote in her mind, because you're not playing your part anymore. The silence becomes louder than any message you could have sent. Most men react. They panic. They spiral into validation-seeking behaviors, long texts, apologies, just checking in. But the man who detaches without bitterness, who maintains his inner calm, becomes a mystery she can't decode. And it's in that unknown that attraction silently regrows. See, women are not drawn to availability. They're drawn to significance. When you disappear with dignity, not in anger, not in revenge, but in peace, she starts to notice the absence of your presence in ways words could never describe. You're no longer noise. You're signal. Quiet, potent, unforgettable. She checks her phone more often, not to text you, but to see if you've left a digital breadcrumb, a story, a quote, a subtle sign that you still think about her. But you don't give her that. You stay in your lane, focused, unmoved, because you're not gone. You're just not chasing. And that difference is magnetic. The silence starts working on her mind. Not because it's a trick, but because it's honest. You've stepped out of the frame where she always expected you to be. Now, every room she walks into, every message she doesn't get from you, creates a vacuum. And nature hates a vacuum, especially emotional ones. Suddenly, the roles reverse. She starts to wonder where you went, who you're becoming, and why her access to you feels like a privilege she lost without warning. She replays conversations, wonders what she missed. And this is key. You're not ignoring her. You're elevating yourself. And elevation always changes perception. She may post more, laugh louder, pretend like she's unfazed. But beneath it all, she's scanning the noise for one thing: your signal. The one that used to show up like clockwork. The one that validated her worth in your world. Now, in your absence, she's left with echoes. And echoes don't comfort, they confront. And here's the paradox. Your silence speaks louder than anything you ever said. Because true presence doesn't beg, it doesn't chase. It becomes an anchor without needing a chain. You're not punishing her, you're preserving yourself. You're showing her the cost of losing access to a man who moved with intention. Women feel the difference between a man who disappears out of anger and a man who walks away with peace. The former seeks attention. The latter commands it. She starts to ask herself questions she never asked before. Was he really the one? Did I push away something rare? Why does his absence feel heavier than his presence ever did? What's even more powerful? You're not trying to be missed. You're not updating your story with cryptic quotes. You're not posting thirst traps for attention. You're simply evolving, quietly. That silence becomes a mirror, And in it, she sees the man you've become without her. Centered, grounded, magnetic. See, most men think attention equals attraction. But Stoic men know that space, when held with strength, creates gravity. You're not chasing her to prove something. You're not cutting her off to punish her. You're simply existing on a new frequency, one that doesn't beg to be heard but echoes without trying. And here's where it gets intense. That space you've created, it invites her to reflect, not on you, but on herself. Why did she let a man like you slip? Why was she so sure you'd always be there? And more importantly, why does it feel like you're the only one she can't forget? Even now, her mind starts replaying the smallest details. Your calm voice, your presence, the way you never needed to prove yourself. Not dramatic gestures, not flashy words, just solid, grounded consistency. And now that it's gone, it's the only thing that stands out against the noise of every other man trying too hard. While others flood her with messages, you remain a quiet presence in the back of her mind. You're not reaching out, but you're not forgotten. And that contrast, it drives her wild, because it proves what most men never understand. Real influence doesn't chase, it lingers. The man who can walk away without theatrics, who can embrace solitude without bitterness, becomes the one she replays in her head. It's not the loud exit she remembers. It's the silent strength, the patience, the refusal to beg for a place that should have been given. And that silence, it starts to echo, louder than words, louder than any text she expected but never got. You become a memory she can't rewrite because you left not in anger, but in peace. You didn't slam the door. You simply stopped knocking. And that, brother, is unforgettable. Because in a world full of noise, the man who walks away in stillness becomes the loudest echo. The Stoic doesn't burn bridges. He lets them collapse under the weight of her neglect. And when she finally looks back, searching for that familiar energy, she finds absence. She finds strength. She finds you, gone, but unforgettable.